I never had any posters taped up on the walls of my room, in either childhood nor adolescence. The periods of life when people usually do have posters up on their walls, of either athletes, movie stars, pop stars, rock stars, or superheroes. Throughout my childhood and adolescence, the walls of my room were blank. And no matter how cringe it may sound, the very first thing that I ever taped up on the wall of my room was a paragraph by Friedrich Nietzsche in my 20s. And I want to share that paragraph with you, because that single paragraph in one of Nietzsche's most underrated works changed the trajectory of my life. I'm going to read it and then dissect it so that hopefully you get the full weight of it by me offering you some context. Without further ado, let me first introduce that most underrated works by Friedrich Nietzsche. That's Untimely Meditations. It's from his earlier period, because Nietzsche's whole body of work is usually divided into periods. This is Nietzsche's early period, or late early. And Untimely Meditations is a collection of essays. Within that collection of essays, there is an essay titled Schopenhauer as Educator. The paragraph that I'm going to read is the very opening paragraph. Now, although this is one of Nietzsche's most underrated works, you might know one famous quote from somewhere in the middle of the essay Schopenhauer as Educator. And that's where Nietzsche says, and I quote, "Nobody can build the bridge for you to walk across the river of life. No one but you yourself alone. There are, to be sure, countless paths and bridges and demigods which would carry you across this river, but only at the cost of yourself. You would pawn yourself and lose. There is in the world only one way on which nobody can go except you. Where does it lead? Do not ask. Go along with it." Once again, I'm expecting that most people who are familiar with Nietzsche have heard or read this quote somewhere on the internet at some point. Well, now you know that it comes from one of his most underrated works, which is Untimely Meditations, collection of essays, and then more precisely, the essay Schopenhauer as Educator. Hopefully this is enough of an introduction. I will not be giving the philosophical background of the whole collection of essays, and even this essay alone, although you can already see that one of the themes is authenticity. Let me now read the essay that changed the trajectory of my life. Maybe it changes yours as well. A traveler who had seen many countries, peoples, and several of the earth's continents was asked what attribute he had found in men everywhere. Men meaning people. I'm inserting that statement, which is true. He said, "They have a propensity for laziness." To others, it seems that he should have said, "They are all fearful. They hide themselves behind customs and opinions." In his heart, every man knows quite well that, being unique, he will be in the world only once, and that there will be no second chance for his oneness to coalesce from the strangely variegated assortment that he is. He knows it, but hides it like a bad conscience. Why? From fear of his neighbor, who demands conformity and cloaks himself with it? But what is it that forces the individual to fear his neighbor, to think and act like a member of a herd, and to have no joy in himself? Modesty, perhaps, in a few rare cases. For the majority, it is idleness, inertia, in short, that propensity for laziness of which the traveler spoke. He is right. Men are even lazier than they are fearful. And their greatest fear is of the burden. Fearful. And their greatest fear is of the burdens that an uncompromising honesty and nakedness of speech and action would lay on them. End of quote. Hopefully, it already sounded powerful, but now let me help you understand it by dissecting it. What is Nietzsche talking about here? Well, he is addressing one of the most important questions of human nature, of philosophy, of psychology. Apart from the questions of what happens after we die and meaning of life and similar existential questions, the most important question of human nature, philosophy, and psychology is, why are people not more of what they could be? Why are, as Henry David Thoreau said, most men or humans leading lives of quiet desperation? Why are most people living monotonous, boring, average, unexceptional lives? Why are most people only scratching or barely scratching the surface of their potential? Something that most passionately, I would say, Abraham Maslow addressed in the 20th century. But it is a question that was always relevant. And Nietzsche almost announces the 20th century humanistic project that finally started talking about this in a more formal way. Why are people not more of what they could be? Once again, I'm going to quote when Nietzsche says that every man knows quite well that being unique, he will be in the world only once, and that there will be no second chance for his oneness to coalesce from the strangely variegated assortment that he is. Beautiful poetic language. He knows it, but hides it like a bad conscience. It's as if his potential and uniqueness is something to be ashamed of. Nietzsche asks why. And he offers this metaphor, or not metaphor, this aphorism to share his idea, which is laziness. Why is this so powerful of an idea? Because it's different from the vast majority of answers throughout the history of asking this question. He says, people think that he should have said, they're all fearful. All humans are fearful, therefore they are not becoming who they could be. Once again, one of the most popular answers that is approached from different angles by different thinkers, but basically we are afraid of sticking out. Why? Well, it's a natural fear. If you are sticking out, if you are seeking to become more of what you can be, and you are determined on that path, you will be excluded from society, sometimes ridiculed, heavily judged. People will try to sabotage you. So it's a journey of isolation, loneliness, difficulty, not being understood, emotional distress, because we are creatures, we are social creatures or creatures of herd, or at least tribe. But Nietzsche says, no, it's not it. Or rather, he asks, well, why are people fearful? And he adds something that no one wanted to say. People are lazy. And what kind of explanation is that? This is not David Goggins' philosophy. This is not Jocko Willink or Joe Rogan or whoever philosophy of discipline is all that matters in life, and just put in hard work or whatever. Although I respect all people who embody discipline and who teach others to be more disciplined. This is not it. This is not grind set, alpha, motivation, Instagram Reels type of insight. This is an insight about how exhausting it actually is to embody and live out your authenticity. You have the duty to do it. You must do it, Nietzsche says. Otherwise, it's as if you never even lived. However, we are acknowledging that it's difficult. What is he talking about here? When he says that he's right, men are even lazier than they are fearful, and their greatest fear is of the burdens that an uncompromising honesty and nakedness of speech and action would lay on them. What is nakedness of speech and action? What is uncompromising honesty? It is to accept and embrace yourself as a unique individual, and every single morning to wake up as that unique individual and to live your life every single day, every hour of the day, every minute of the day as that unique individual. Whatever that means for any one of us. And now for you to say, well, I have no idea who I am and what I'm supposed to be, Nietzsche would say, Abraham Maslow would say, Rollo May would say, Carl Jung would say, that's a BS excuse. Maybe you don't have the full picture, but you know you have the capacity to reach within and know at least the next step on your journey of becoming who you are, on the journey of authenticity. No one is fully oblivious to what it would mean to be more true to themselves. Don't seek excuse through the statement that, oh, I don't even know what is a self or what is a true self. Is there a true self? Those semantics, let's put them aside. You know what it means to be more true to yourself. It's not an on and off switch. You're inauthentic or fully authentic. You are false self or true self. It's a spectrum. And right now, you who are watching this video, you have an insight, at least one insight, of what it would mean to be more true to yourself. Well, Nietzsche says, that's not a part-time gig. That's not a part-time hobby. It's a passionate commitment. That's where he agrees with Kierkegaard or Kierkegaard. Nietzsche and Kierkegaard being the two godfathers of existentialism. One of them anti-Christ, and the other one maybe one of the greatest Christian theologians, at least of the last couple of centuries. However, they overlap on many important ideas, such as authenticity and engaging in life. So, Nietzsche says, if you want to be true to yourself, it's not a part-time thing. It's not something you do on Saturday or Sunday or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like when you go to the gym or whatever class you're engaged in. Every single day, every hour of the day, every minute of the day. That's why it's exhausting. So people fear. What do they fear? They fear the effort that it takes to be who they can be and who they must become. They fear the effort. That's laziness, whether you like it or not. Let's at least for a moment accept Nietzsche's definition. Why do I consider this such a paradigm-shifting idea? Why did it change the trajectory of my life? Because let's be real, this is an aphorism on human nature. This is not some grand philosophical idea like Plato's forms or Kant's categorical imperative or Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. This is an aphorism on human nature. I would argue, and that's not a controversial statement, that Nietzsche was at his greatest in aphorisms. And I find this aphorism so important because for me, it found me, I will put it like that, when I was already on my self-improvement journey and I was already reading the Stoics. And I was starting to read as well Henry David Thoreau. So I was on my self-improvement journey. But this was important because it spoke to a truth that you never, and I mean never, encounter in modern spaces of personal growth, self-improvement, not to mention New Age spirituality. You never encounter the reality that becoming who you're supposed to be and being authentic is extremely difficult, even exhausting, because of this nakedness of speech and action that is implied in it or required as part of the journey. And I embrace it. I embraced it back then, I have been embracing it, and I embrace it to this day. It's not a happy pink glasses, looking at the world through pink glasses type of message. But is the truth. And is the truth that can be, or it's a type of truth that can be empowering if you decide to engage in your life. If you decide to embrace the fact, once again to quote, that you will be in this world only once, and that there will be no second chance for this oneness, for your oneness to coalesce from the strangely variegated assortment that you are. Again, Nietzsche with his poetic language. If you embrace the fact that you are unique and that what you do with your life matters, how about that? How about that idea? You are so unique that what you do with your life matters. Wild proposition. Wild proposition, I know. Especially today. Especially today when seemingly AI can do everything that you can do. So you're kind of nudged in the direction of thinking that you are nothing special, that your life doesn't matter, that there is nothing unique, sacred, divine in you. No, you're just a blob of meat and neurons that can plug himself or herself into their favorite AI assistant and accomplish everything, quote unquote, everything that you want. How about the prospect that you already have unique essence in you, and that you have the duty, the task, the responsibility, the challenge to nurture that essence, that uniqueness, and to bring it into life by daily effort, daily honesty, daily authenticity, daily leaning into the challenge of becoming who you're supposed to be, rather than taking the path of least resistance. Once again, wild idea, I know. And of course, I have to sprinkle some of the modern context into it. That's why I'm mentioning AI. That's why I'm mentioning, the digital age. You know why? Because Nietzsche here is talking about laziness. Nietzsche here is talking about how difficult it is for you to every day live with this uncompromising honesty and nakedness of speech and action. How about today? Today you add confusion on top of that, you add distraction on top of that, you add temptation on top of that, you add dysregulation on top of that. You add being pulled in 1,000 different directions on top of that. You add the illusion that you can live 100 different lives. That you can be this today and this tomorrow, and then, let me take on 15 different side quests. Once again, as I say with many other things, yes, we live in an age of immense opportunities, so I am not trying to send a pessimistic message. However, the task of authenticity and the task of engaging with and breaking through the resistance on the path of authenticity, it's a more difficult task than in Nietzsche's age. Undoubtedly. But be proud of that. If you and I are facing a task more difficult than Nietzsche and more difficult than Schopenhauer, let's show that we are up to that task. So I'm leaving you with this question. Or actually, it's two questions. First, what is the next thing that you can do to be more true to yourself? Not to become the pinnacle of what it means to be your true self, your truest self. Just to be more true to yourself. And the second question, related to our age, what do you need to do or fix in the way that you're living your life so that the digital component of our lives is not making the journey even more difficult for you? Friends, as always, thank you. Stay strong. Never feel sorry for yourself. Always love this magical life that, as Nietzsche says, you get to live only once. Although later he starts talking about eternal recurrence, which flips that argument. Light that raging fire in your heart so that you can live as the unique creature, magical creature that you are, always go beyond and put some respect on Nietzsche's name.